Sam, let's get started kind of where we are with the Cubs post deadline. I think there was a
Yeah,
lot of expectations that more people were going to get moved.
right.
You had the scene at Wrigley Field with Hap and Contreras
Sure.
hugging and giving the
Sure.
goodbyes. Really, they just kind of dealt out of the bullpen, right?
Right.
They gave Efros and Givens and Robertson. Now, those were their deals, so they didn't necessarily ship everyone off. They didn't necessarily stand pat. So
Yeah.
in terms of the makeup of this roster, where do they stand right now, and why don't you think they went all in with trading as much as they could?
Yeah, I think it's a very a complicated situation. We talked about this on our show yesterday. Actually, I think with Jed, I do think if you read between the lines, he, I do think they wanted to trade Contreras and Hap. I do believe that, especially Contreras, just nothing to do with him as a player, but just because of where his contract situation is and how far apart it seems they are on extension talks. But if you listen to what Jed Hoyer said, it just the market just wasn't there, and they just couldn't. They couldn't find a deal that made sense, and they obviously weren't going to just trade him just to trade him and get back some guy that you're never going to see in the big leagues. So I think that's why I don't think they went in and said, "Hey, we're only going to trade bullpen guys." I think the plan was to have a complete sell off, but you don't do that unless you feel like the trades are going to help your baseball team in the future. And I don't think with Happ and Contreras, they found anything that made sense. So it is very awkward. It's very weird watching them post deadline, because I was expecting to see, okay, well, I knew they were going to struggle, but you're sitting here and you're saying, okay, well, we're going to see some guys come up, but really, like you said, outside of the best bullpen arms, it's the same exact team. So it's weird. Where does this team stand right now? I think when you look at this season in a vacuum, I think it's been frustrating because I do think they are more talented than the record shows. Wilson Contreras made an all-star team. Ian Happ made an all-star team. Seiya Suzuki has shown flashes of being a really good hitter in this league. Nico Horner has had an outstanding season. They're starting to pitch. And then when you look at their record, they're 21 games under. It doesn't add up. But I think long term, we're talking about probably a 7-8 game difference. It's not going to matter. And I think where they feel right now that they're in the best position is with their farm system and their future players.
Do you think because of the trade deadline and the Juan Soto news coming out kind of a few days beforehand that there was this everyone's
Totally.
attention shifted towards, oh, Ian Happ could have been the outfield bat that we wanted. Well, now I don't care about Ian Happ anymore because
Sure.
I have even if I have a 5% chance to get, Soto, I'm at least gonna give a pitch, I'm at least gonna
Of
send it in
course.
and see what they say. Do you think that in a way kind of put the Cubs down in the pecking order in terms of who was calling and who was asking for guys?
100%. I think I not only that, I also think it just kind of messed up the market, because I think the Padres, the two teams we heard with Contreras and Happ the most were really San Diego and the Mets. And if you remember last year, the Cubs traded Baez to the Mets, for Pete Crow Armstrong, who's now probably the top prospect in the Cubs system. And the Mets got, 2 months of Javi Baez basically for nothing. And I think the Mets were a little bit apprehensive to deal with the Cubs again because of that. And then you have the Padres going to get Soto, and then it just shrunk the market. And then I think it was a position where teams like the Rays were offering you something for Contreras that was just like, this isn't worth it. Like, I'd rather even get the compensatory pick than this. So that's that. But yeah, to answer your question, 100, I think the Soto news 100% kind of mess with the deadline and mess with the market for sure.
Have the expectations for this team changed since the beginning of the year? I don't think probably a lot of people had them pegged to win the Central, especially with the Cardinals and Brewers as kind of top heavy as they are. So, I mean, have they been on track with whatever their plan is? Have expectations changed? How do you now post deadline look at this team compared to where they were maybe supposed to be
Right.
beginning of the year?
Yeah, so I think they've dramatically been below expectations. I really do. Now when I say that, I'm not saying before the season I did not think they were going to make the playoffs, but I thought I'll put it to you like this: I thought it was more likely that they'd be a few games under 500 at this point than they would be in last place in the division for sure. Because it's just like I said before, and to be fair to them, they've had some really bad injuries with their starting rotation. They signed Wade Miley. He started like 4 games all year. Kyle Hendricks has been hurt. Stroman was on the IL. Smiley was on. They've had injuries, and that always happens. But again, to me, when you look at this roster, and let's say you compare it to the Pittsburgh Pirates roster, who I believe right now is a half a game better than the Cubs, or right around where they're at. I think it's crazy to me that's like that when you look at the roster, right? Obviously, Brian Reynolds, Brian Hayes, nice players, but their roster, the Cubs roster, it's a totally different comparison to me. So, like I was telling you earlier, is it at the end of the world? We're talking about the difference between winning 67, 68 games and 75, 76. No, it's not. But like I said, looking at the season in the vacuum, I did not think that they would be in the cellar like this. I thought they would at least be a little bit more competitive regularly, and I think they should be, and they've underachieved.
As the team heads to Iowa for the Field of Dreams game, who are the players to watch? Who are bright lights, national TV spotlight?
Right.
Who are you looking forward to stand out? And what should Cubs fans be excited about as they head here to Iowa?
Yeah, the first name that pops in my head, outside of Contreras, which everybody would know, would be Nico Horner. I think he's just, to me, he's been the best story of the year for the Cubs, along with Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson, who's thrown the ball well. And I don't believe they've announced the starters for the Field of Dreams game yet. So depending on that, if Justin Steele were to pitch in that game, that would also be really cool. But we'll see. But yeah, for me, it's Nico Horner because he's played a very solid defensive shortstop, which a lot of people, including me, had doubts about going into the year. His range, his arm, because he's a fantastic second baseman, but that's a big change, and he's crushed it. And offensively, he's just a really consistent hitter. He doesn't have that much power. He doesn't take many walks, but he hits for average. And the thing on this team that he provides that really, honestly, nobody else provides is clutch hitting. I could see that Field of Dreams game coming down. It's tight late, couple guys on base. He's the guy you want at the plate. So he would be a guy to watch. I'm interested to see how Suzuki handles an atmosphere like that. That'll be interesting to see. He's been struggling recently, but he's another guy to watch. And then if Christopher Morel, who's been really a nice surprise as a rookie this year, he's battling a hamstring thing. I think he'll be okay for that game. Those would be the 3 guys, right? Because obviously Contreras and Happ, we all know. Who knows what their future's like on those teams? But those 3 guys, are going to be contributors to the 2023 roster.
How do the Cubs finish this season? What are the kind of goals? What should they be trying to approach the rest of the season doing? Developing or looking at a specific thing they need to improve? What should they be looking to do to finish out the year?
Yeah, I think they just need to continue to develop the guys that are going to be contributors on this team going forward. So every Justin Steele start's really important to watch. Every Keegan Thompson start is really important to watch. Obviously, seeing what goes on in the farm system is really important. And then, like I just said, the same players I just highlighted to watch for the game on Thursday are the same guys I'll be watching every day. I want to see Nico Horner finish the season healthy and consistent. I want to see Seiya Suzuki have another hot streak. So I go into next year feeling like he could really break out, from right field. And, Christopher Morel, continuing to adjust to big league pitching. Those are the guys you're watching because, when you have a team that is struggling like the Cubs are, you really don't know. The roster turnover could be crazy. So, these are the guys I know are going to be a part of the team next year. So their development is what I look at the most. And obviously you want to win games. I don't think, I guess I'll say it again. I just don't think this team should be as bad as they are. So I'd like to see them win games, get on a hot streak here. They play the Nationals this week before the Field of Dreams game, and then Cincinnati. String some games together and continue developing the guys that are going to be a part of your team in the future.
To wrap this up, Sam, everyone knows how iconic the Field of Dreams is, the cornfields, and the entrance that really, if nobody had seen the movie, they really saw it last year on national television with
awesome.
Kevin Costner, leading everyone out when it was the Yankees and the White Sox.
Yeah.
If you had to pick some guys and you had to pick your all-time team, to make that entrance from the cornfield, who would you have on your list?
Yeah. So really fun exercise. The Cubs and Reds, obviously not having great seasons, but such a rich tradition for both organizations, and even though, like I said, with the current team, it's still a really cool matchup to have in the Field of Dreams games because of the history. So I put together a little list. I was thinking, and obviously this is, you know, just opinion based. I had Johnny Bench would be my catcher. I think that would be the easiest selection on there. I had Vada at first base, which was difficult. There was a lot of different things I could do. I'll explain some honorable mentions. At second base, I had Joe Morgan. Shortstop, Ernie Banks. Third base, I felt like I had to get a 16 Cubs guy in there. I just had to, right? Because that's the only team that really got it done, won a World Series. So I put Chris Bryant there at third. My outfield was Frank Robinson, Sosa, and Billy Williams. And then pitching wise, I went with Fergie Jenkins. Honorable mention Tom Seaver. I just felt like he did a better job. You know, most of his career accolades came with the Mets. And then with the bullpen, I had, you know, the Nasty Boys, of course, you'd want to see come out there, the early Reds teams. And then I thought the only guy that really had a great run with the Cubs and Reds, Aroldis Chapman. So he'd be in there as well. And that was a fun exercise. There's so many things I could have done. I could have put Barry Larkin in there, moved Ernie Banks to first base. There's so many great players, but that's and Pete Rose is my DH.
That's your caveat there. You get Pete Rose in, but he is the DH now that we've got. Yeah,
because I didn't know. Yeah, because Pete Rose played so many different positions. I didn't know where to set him, so I put him at DH. I didn't want Reds fans to jump on me. I didn't forget Pete Rose. He'd be hitting leadoff. But yeah, no, just a great tradition. And that's kind of when I'm watching this game, I'm going to think about, you know, Cubs and Reds. I mean, two of the oldest teams ever. So great tradition, great rivalry, and some amazing Hall of Famers that played.